now let's shift focus from the perspective of youth to a focus really on inclusion, and this covers all ages. Focus on inclusion, and Dr. Greenberg and Anthony Robles will guide our discussion here. Just a reminder for you all and for the folks listening, yesterday we really did a little deeper dive. We could spend many more hours certainly on each of these areas, but we really tried to give you a kind of a primer and then allow you to have some interaction with some folks and with each other mostly in terms of what's going on in these areas. But the goal for today now then is to bring that, what you've discussed yesterday, to the full group for deliberation. And what we would like from each of the breakout sessions is really to come away with some key action points. So we're going to ask each of the leaders from each of the roundtables to nail down, 2 or 3, it might be 1, might be 2, might be 3 action steps that we can do, that you are committing to as a council to move that space forward. So with that kind of as the foundation, I'll turn it over to Jane and Anthony.
Good afternoon and good morning still. And we're really proud that the council is looking at physical activity for all Americans and including our Americans, youth, adults with disabilities. Yesterday we had the opportunity in a breakout session to work with Anthony and Michelle, and we're asking all of our council members to guide us on what should be the next steps and some of the programs that we have in place. And if Caleb didn't hit it home for you and say, sharing the love and the opportunities and the barriers, then we know we've got a lot of work ahead of us to do. And we're going to have just a brief discussion and open it up for everybody to give input as to how we address and where we move with this. But we just want to say the power of kids and the power of all kids, and every child should have the opportunity to be physically active throughout their lifespan into adulthood. And yesterday during the inclusion breakout session, Michelle, Anthony, and I discussed how we as a council can continue to address the barriers people with disabilities face that are related to leading healthy and active lifestyles. And I'm going to put it out there that although I seem to be speaking a lot about I can do it, you can do it, and programs for kids with disabilities, my job is the district director for physical education and health literacy for Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And I'm extremely proud and honored as an educator to serve on the council. So children are my life, and all children deserve the opportunity to be physically active. So as you know, the theme of inclusion is woven throughout each of the President's Council's programs and initiatives, but also lead the coordination of 2 initiatives which specifically focus on ensuring children and adults with disability have equal access and opportunities to be healthy and active. And the first one, which I'm going to speak briefly about, is I Can Do It, You Can Do It, and then I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to speak on Commit to Inclusion. And these programs thrive on partnerships with public and private entities at every level. And in fact, the majority of our conversation yesterday resolved around key partnerships that we can proactively establish to help foster the creation of community that includes people of all ages and all disabilities. And we'd like to share some of the ideas that came up out of yesterday's conversation. And I see in the back of the room is Jeremy, who joined our roundtable yesterday. Jeremy is visually impaired and brought to the table how goalball has changed his life as an athlete. And we just share these experiences because we can talk about it, but we need to make it a living reality for the people with disabilities that we serve. So I Can Do It, You Can Do It is actually a national promotion that addresses 3 pillars. It addresses schools, public, private schools, K through 12 education. It addresses universities and community entities that deal with not only community recreation programs, but also home living facilities, anywhere where persons with disabilities are. And the one thing that the council has done in revising the great work that was started by Dr. Giannini 12 years ago and Michael Marge in the Office of Disabilities when they were in that position, is that it's a mentorship program. And we heard just now the importance of mentorship in bringing kids up to the ability of where they can be. And I'm going to sit here honestly and tell you, I'm not sure who gets more out of the program, the mentee or the mentor. And at the end of the day, it's a win-win for both people when you mentor a child, and especially a child with a disability. So I Can Do It came about, and it started with just 6 sites, 1 public school district, 1 community center, and 4 universities. And we're proud to say now that it's grown into 61 sites. And that's a huge growth in a short amount of time. But like everything else, we can always do much better. And the program offers a step-by-step stakeholder manual that we have on the website, fitness.gov, under I Can Do It, You Can Do It, of how to start the program from scratch. And you don't have to be the most knowledgeable person, because there's lots of people out there that we turn to when we're not sure what to do. But you got to start somewhere, and you've got to start by implementing the program and the opportunity. So the toolkit offers training for program coordinators, teachers, coaches, graduate students. And thanks to our new partnership with Disabled Sports USA, as you heard Caleb talk about, we're also beginning to incorporate new resources into the toolkit to help teachers and coaches coordinate sports-specific programs. I Can Do It, You Can Do It, again, is implemented in 61 sites, with the majority of those now being community settings. The council needs to help identify specific methods to recruit new I Can Do It, You Can Do It advocates in colleges and universities and K-12 school settings. Some of the ideas we discussed yesterday include, what can we do to encourage everyday school, university, and communities to adopt I Can Do It, You Can Do It? I'm very proud to say that on May 21st in Miami-Dade County Public Schools, for our 11th annual I Can Do It, You Can Do It award celebration, we will be giving out the Power Plus Awards to 1,500 students with disabilities, including physically disabled, intellectually disabled, autism, visually impaired, and hearing impaired. And that's only half of the students that are involved in our program, where we have 3,000 students participating, and the largest number participating in a very robust Miami-Dade County Special Olympics program. So at this time, the I Can Do It, You Can Do It program is easy to implement. It just takes an advocate. It just takes someone that steps up to the plate and says, I'm going to help this child, this adult with a disability, become physically active every day. We're going to work on developing nutrition plans. We're going to work on developing physical activity plans that is very unique to the specific individual. So just as a background information, please visit the website and look up I Can Do It, You Can Do It. And from our council members, we're looking for ways that we can expand this further. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony, who's going to speak about Commit to Inclusion.
Well, thank you, Jane, and good afternoon. Commit to Inclusion is a call to action campaign that was co-founded in October 2014 by PCFSN, the National Center on Health, Physical Activity, and Disability, the American Association on Health and Disability, and the Center on Disability at the Public Health Institute. Commit to Inclusion challenges every entity, including private, government, and nonprofit organizations, to ensure new and existing program initiatives and policies in the areas of physical activity, nutrition, obesity are appropriate and accessible for people with disabilities. Currently, there are 33 entities that have made that commitment, including Zumba, Special Olympics, and Shape America. And I'd like to show you a quick video just so we can get our minds wrapped around the thought of inclusion.
What does inclusion mean to me?
To me, inclusion means like including everyone in it, no matter if you're in a wheelchair, walker, whatever. You got to include everybody.
I think when I look at inclusion, I see it as a part of the economic driver of a community. They're just part of, you're just the person next door, and people see you as the person next door.
Inclusion is a way of life.
So for us, inclusion is having our children be involved in every walk of life. Your child can be part of a league. You can have that normalcy of going to see a baseball game, because that's what they want, just like every other parent.
Inclusion started in elementary school as I broke down barriers to be included.
It's so much fun. It's like you include people, and people that are in wheelchairs or standing up, it doesn't matter.
Inclusion means to me I get to play with my friends at PE.
It sounds like he seems happy in his bedroom, but he's not. He seems happy in there, but he seems more happy when he's getting included in triathlons.
That everyone
is joining the party?
Not just being invited to the dance, but being invited to dance.
It means actually inclusion, meaning being included in things, a variety of things.
It means having absolutely everyone in the community being able to be included in all the activities, all of the programs, and all the facilities that we have and offer.
To me, inclusion means we can go out and do a family activity and not have people stare at us.
Inclusion means no segregation.
It's not being discriminated against.
And it's not just that it's access to the community, it's really about involvement in the community.
Inclusion basically is to give a person a chance to be involved in what's going on in society. That can range from be it a theatrical play or be it just selling items on the market. So, feel free to give anyone inclusion, no matter who they are. Yes, please commit to it. Please commit to inclusion, because we all can achieve if given a chance.
Well, as you can see from that video, inclusion, it's essential for this council if we hope to achieve our vision. And I can speak to this personally because I was born missing my leg, and I just remember even as a kid, I was heavily into fitness and sports, and I wanted to get involved. And just a short, funny story, I know a lot of you are probably familiar with the boxing movie Rocky. It's one of my favorite movies. As a kid, my mom actually, she'd shave my head as the Mohawk, Mr. T. And we had a 2-story house, and what I would do is I'd walk up to top of the stairs, and I'd actually free hang over the rafter and I'd do pull-ups like Mr. T. It'd freak my mom out, but ever since as a little kid, I wanted to get into fitness. I wanted to get involved in sports, but I just remember never having that opportunity. We'd talk to coaches, and I'd go with my mom to talk to these coaches about trying out for these leagues, and they just look at me, they'd look at her like we were crazy. Like, well, can he be out here? We don't know how to teach him. We don't know how to acclimate for him. And so for the longest time, I didn't feel like I had that opportunity. I didn't feel like I was included, like I was given that chance like all the other kids. And I just watched from the sideline until finally, later at 14 years old, I had the chance to wrestle. And so this is extremely important because as a kid, it helps so much with your self-esteem, just getting to that next level, just being able to go out there with other kids and just bump elbows, just learning what you're capable of together and what you're not capable of, because that's what life and what fitness is all about, just testing your limits and breaking those barriers. And so it's extremely important for companies like, organizations like Zumba to take that next step and make that commitment to inclusion. I know Zumba is actually developing a training for instructors to help make Zumba accessible for all. And what we need to do as council members is identify those organizations that we can partner up with and make commitment to inclusion, get to that next level. And we also talked briefly yesterday about amplifying the need to get the conversation started with national high school associations to ensure equal access is being provided for student athletes with disabilities, whatever it may be, because that's a very slim thing right now. We said that's the foundation. If we want to start hitting the college and university levels even harder, it needs to be strong from the high school level.
Thanks, Anthony, because that's so important. And the Paralympic Committee is reaching out to the schools to assist schools. And what Caleb said this morning is actually true, that the funding is so difficult because the specialized equipment costs so much that sometimes the biggest barrier is not the child with the disability, not the yearning to want to be involved in sport, but actually the cost of the equipment to engage in sport and activity. So that's something that we need to look at, how funding can help, schools and entities so that every child has an opportunity. Michelle, as part of the committee, please.
Yeah, so to piggyback off of Dr. Greenberg, Caleb really just nailed it when he said we need more equipment, we need more access, and Anthony, opportunity, and partnerships are key because the President's Council cannot do it all. So we rely on all of you to jump on in and help us as we try to forge ahead and make a difference. Yesterday, we had a great conversation, and I also serve on the board of Special Olympics, and it's powerful when Anthony talks about opportunity, creating that opportunity. Special Olympics was founded 4 years ago in the backyard of Eunice Kennedy Shriver, and it has grown into a movement of 4 million people strong. And that is talking about acceptance and inclusion. And the video was very powerful when one woman said, "I don't want them to stare." That's what inclusion is all about. I spoke to a parent of a child with intellectual disabilities, and her dream is to one day walk down the street where people don't do the double take. That, to her, is acceptance and inclusion. And yes, 4 million people who have had the opportunity to play, but throughout the world, there are still so many people wanting that chance to have a ball. It's not the symbol of giving a ball for a child to play with, but it's to dream, to make a difference, to have everything that people without intellectual disabilities or disabilities have. And that's what we're trying to do with I Can Do It, You Could Do It, Commit to Inclusion. And the toolkit, I commend you for all the work that you're doing at I Can Do It, You Could Do It, because providing a toolkit is so powerful, because oftentimes people don't know how to work with people with disabilities. And they're left, they have time, they want to, but they don't know how. So it is that step forward, and also creating those mentors that I know, looking around all the athletes who have role models and mentors, coaches, trainers, choreographers, people who are there helping and providing a helping hand. And people with intellectual disabilities need that helping hand. And also the misconception that people with disabilities have better health care. It is completely false. So making sure that that's part of this initiative as well. So we need your help, and commend you for what you're doing, Dr. Greenberg.
Sorry, it's all of us. It's not just one, it's all of us. And Michelle, you brought up a great point by talking about the healthcare needs, because persons with disabilities are 3 times more likely to have obesity issues, more medical issues, and it's not easy paying for those. So the more we can get persons with disabilities physically active to address those health disparities, the more it's a win-win, not only for the person's individual self-confidence and self-efficacy in many senses, but also, as Mark talked about earlier about the healthcare needs. So as we open up the conversation, I want you all to think about, just the word imagine. Imagine the possibilities when we all open up our doors to every person in the United States to be physically active. And even though sometimes it's stepping outside of our own comfort zone, it's a door that we must open and continue to provide opportunities for persons with disabilities across their lifespan as well. And Michelle, when you said reaching out the hand, sometimes that's all it takes, is reach out a hand, and we can make it happen. So at this time, I'd like to hear from other council members on thoughts of the direction we should go. Dr. D?
Yeah, there are a couple. I really enjoyed your presentation. This is an area of particular interest of me and the community I live in Bismarck, North Dakota. And as a practicing pediatrician, one of the barriers we had over the years was our Medicaid program and getting equipment for kids with disabilities. And to such that our community banded together, and particularly out of the physical medicine physical therapists and occupational therapists, we have a Great American Bike Race every year, and we raise about $400,000 in our community, which is like 2/3 of our state, to purchase adaptable equipment to supplement what Medicaid doesn't provide. And I Can Do It, You Can Do It is a wonderful program. I don't know what's been done in the past about letting people in different parts of the country know what is available. If there's opportunities to talk to meetings of Medicaid directors, meetings of physiatrists, physical therapists, those individuals throughout this country of ours who would be potentially really interested in taking I can you do it, you can do it, and get going with it. And to educate our Medicaid directors and the people who dispense the money about how they are limiting what kids can do by limiting the type of services that they cover. So there's a couple of things that come to my mind, how our community has tried to address some of the barriers that our kids have had.
Yeah, and I'll just say that if that's, if that's something that you all would like to direct the staff to inquire about, those folks are right here in this building. And certainly we can do that in the coming days and weeks and report back to the council about what is available and maybe what we can do to help amplify out to the communities what's available. Because a lot of times there are services that are there that folks don't know about. So that's part of what we're asking. And then where there are gaps to help share what we know, certainly in that space, and how we might do a better job as a department at filling those gaps. So certainly, Jane, if you want to add that to your list, that hopefully we'll agree on here in the next few minutes for sure.
Jane, ask a similar question I asked before, the barriers that you see. Dr. McDonough identified perhaps knowledge. Money, funds is always an issue. What's your view of that?
That's interesting you ask, because that's a timely question. This year we were adopted by the Paralympic Committee to field test how we can get Paralympic programs into our high schools so that our students with disabilities come and participate in the state track and field meet. And we had 17 of our 40 high school track and field coaches in attendance. They did a training, many thanks to Paul Ackerman and Chris Snyder, who came in to train our coaches. And unfortunately, we didn't have a single coach come through. And I even got the school district to put an extra $560 supplement on the table for them on top of their coaching supplement if they would work with just one student. So it was a little discouraging that we didn't come through. And so I surveyed the coaches. Why didn't this happen? And, we had some issues, some time constraints. We started too late into the school year. But what surprised me, and their honesty I really appreciate, is they weren't comfortable working with a child with a disability. And they were less comfortable traveling with a child with a disability. And that was something I didn't think about. And it gives me a new challenge for next year to do more sensitivity training and education training, that if we are our own barriers because of our fear, we need to step outside the box. We need to become more educated. And I'm hopeful that next year we'll make the school district proud and we will come through. Because we do have students that, are eligible to go through the Paralympic pipeline through high school athletics. And then once the high schools engage in more sports, then we'll see more with the NCAA, like Anthony said. And this is what grows the sport. But it's got to start somewhere. And it's relatively new ground for persons that have never coached or taught before. So it told me what we need to work on. That's a main barrier.
Jane, I'm really glad you said that, because I was really struck by the Surgeon General's comment about the great American community. And I think when you're talking about comfort and awareness and understanding, I think one of the things that's incredibly important is visibility. And I know that I talked about this last year, because I'm absolutely enamored with Team USA Paralympic sled hockey, because I think they're just awesome. Just shameless plug, they just won another world championship 2 days ago. So that's amazing. But the thing that's more amazing about it is that you could watch it on TV. And that is so incredibly important, because not only are these incredible athletes that we can all really learn from, and the work that they put in and the achievements that they have, but it also helps us to understand, ways in which we can incorporate those sports now that have become more visible and put them into our communities, and do that more fearlessly, because we understand that there are models, there are resources out there, and there are heroes out there who are teaching us kind of the path, teaching us the way. And so I think that when we talk about partnerships, any opportunity that we have to elevate those athletes and elevate those sports that are already in place, I think can be very valuable to us as far as kind of opening minds and opening doors to a lot of aspiring athletes.
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that too, Caitlin, because I think that's critically important. And it sounds like from what we're talking about, and this just hit me as you and Anthony were discussing this, is in terms of pushing it out to organizations like World Hockey or baseball or whatever you happen to, is there an attempt also to take organizations that are already dealing with individuals with disabilities and bring them in and coordinate them through the President's Council as well? It appears like we're going out to organizations like Zumba and the sports federations, but I also know there's a lot of organizations out there that are already doing this that we can probably bring in.
That's a great point, because as Jason said earlier, NBA Fit, many of the NBA teams also have wheelchair basketball teams that they support in the communities. So there are pockets, and proudly the Miami Heat works with us in Miami-Dade County Public Schools and works with our wheelchair athletes. So there are lots of organizations. We just need to expand these opportunities, and we need to make it, because any of our professional athletes here, NCAA champion, Olympians, the persons that participate in the Paralympics don't train any less harder than you all do. You know, they really try. And yesterday when we saw the Special Olympics, the DC in preparation for the state competition, you know, we saw 3 kids lock elbows supporting the other child on their team, you know, trying to score the 5 balls into the goal. And they were rooting for each other. And we're at a point where you don't have to stay up through the middle of the night to watch Paralympics on TV. So we're getting some prime time as well. So there's great strides made, but you know, as our work in the council and everything that we do, we just really want to push out that we want to include persons with disabilities at every level, and that's just the message that we do want to get across. And I know that we're on time here, so we also have a very important announcement to make, and that's the 25th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, that many of you know as the ADA. So I hope that on July 26 in 2015, when the Office of the President's Council participates with other HHS administration, that you take a time to celebrate the achievements and the work that's being done as a result of the ADA and the opportunities for persons with disabilities to be physically active and to participate in every stage of life, work, play, and where they live in their communities, that parks and recreation programs become more accessible and more programs become in the communities. So thank you all, council members, for everything that you're doing. We've taken notes, and hopefully we'll come to some consensus on where we're going to go with this.
Well, thanks, Jane. And so I'd really like to get an agreement from the council, from you and Anthony and the council members on what are the 1, 2, or 3 most salient areas that you'd like to see us collectively, not just your staff, but all of you, work in the future in this area. Yeah, Cornell, yes.
Well, I just think kind of what the young man said earlier on the stage. One, to make sure that we are using social media. I think that's very essential and important to, I mean, as Michelle said earlier, as the lady mentioned in the film about feeling included, is to feel like everybody else, to feel normal. And the only way we can do that, and we see this all the time in almost everything that we do, is exposure. So, and I know that that's one of the things that we do best, is to help things to get exposed. And so that's what I think we need to do as council members, from all of us, to do whatever we can to help in terms of exposure and help in terms of, you know, making sure that people are just see it more, become more comfortable.
Amplification.
Amplification.
We kind of call it internally. How do we amplify? And again, that's where our greatest asset is you all. And so that seems like that should certainly be on the list, Jane, is that amplification. And part of that, too, is making sure we have a good pulse on what's out there, and we're sharing that with you all, and then amplifying through our social media and other channels. So, Jane, what else, just to kind of recap? Yeah, sorry.
Well, I'd like to just underscore the point that you made before, Jen. You talked about those coaches being uncomfortable. Michelle, you were talking about your experience with Special Olympics. I know that they've dealt with, obviously, there's issues and a lot of healthcare issues of stigma. and there is here too. And it may well be a place that we could have a role to help puncture that. Because you might have all the visibility you want to, and if you still have folks who are resistant, you're not going to make that advance. So I think that's a specific thing. I do believe that people are inclined to help, but they're just not sure what to do or how to do it.
Yep. I think a timely way that we can do that. I know Paul Rodert is here, CEO of Shape America, who he and other organizations are putting on a coaching conference upcoming this summer, I believe. So that might be something, Paul, if we could delve into that. I don't know if there are going to be any sessions specifically for how do we engage young people with disability. But would it be okay if we work with you to address that at the conference? Great. Thank you. So that'll be a great action step, specific action step that we can take, and that's, I know, just a timely thing that's upcoming.
Something to, I think is very powerful is the call to action, Robert, and I think, Cornell, you also mentioned the social media aspect of it. At Special Olympics, we did the R campaign. So people with intellectual disabilities when people use the R word, it really hurts them. And so it was a collective kind of movement from our ambassadors to our athletes to our board members, really holding hands and saying the R word is not okay to use in this context, and it should never be used. And it was very powerful because it went throughout schools and universities, and the students got involved, and it became their own. And people signed up, so there was a sort of accountability and numbers and names, and it went viral in terms of I commit to the R campaign, do you? And so something like that could be an idea that the President's Council can use.
And Shelley, to answer, and Michelle, that's great, the call to action for I Can Do It, You Can Do It, to engage, maybe by this time next year, we'll double the number of sites, triple the number of schools, and keep going forward and making the opportunities available until it becomes contagious.
Great. So what are the top things that you have on your list then? I'm sorry, just to recap. To summarize. I know Lauren's taking good notes, and Lauren Derensberg is our kind of our lead in this space for those that don't know it. But go ahead, James.
Sure. I've got the social media.
Yep.
I think that's awesome. We've got the coaching conference that we can do something immediate on. And we have a call to action to expand sites for I Can Do It, You Can Do It, and commit to inclusion.
The commit to inclusion piece.
Yep.
So how does that sound? And I'm happy to add on the, working with the Medicaid folks upstairs and find out what's available and what's not, and how we can help lift that up if we want to add that to the list, certainly.
And I'd like to add one more too, and it's the fact of you going after organizations that are already working in this space, especially, and this is my bias, the Veterans Organization for amputees and others that are returning from combat.
Yeah.
And that's a great point, because that's who has predominantly expanded the number of persons with disabilities participating in adult disabled sports, is the number of wounded veterans, wounded warriors coming home. So absolutely that's on our list. It's the lifespan, it's the children in the schools, the college-age students in the universities, and the community programs that go into adulthood. So thank you all so much.
Great, great. Hey, Carly, you want to help us on that too? You already have your own organization, right? Working with vets? All right, you're drafted. All right, guys, thank you. Thank you. So I think we have some concrete things that we'll move forward on, and we'll be accountable back to you all, and we'll ask you to join in and working on those as well.